Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Everything HR podcast. I'm your host, Manuel Martinez, founder and CEO of Omni HR. Today, we have Rebecca Martinez, an IT leader making a difference in technology for all minority career women, and my wife. In this segment, we're going to be discussing her personal experience with HR and tech, along with potential changes to the workforce as AI and automation become more prevalent. Becca, I'm really happy having you here today.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me, Manny. Appreciate it.
For sure. So, can you just give us a little bit of your background in tech, kind of maybe some of the roles you've done and why you started it in the first place?
Yeah. So I think my first role, not directly in tech, but connected to it, was back in the school that I had worked at. Not the first school, but the second school I had worked at. I was a teacher facilitating a digital lab on campus, but it also had students that were virtual. And I would assist the IT department as well as the librarians who heavily delved in the technology realm of education. From that, I got a little inspired to just keep rolling with the technology, moved from education to tech, and worked in a casino as a desktop support technician, if I can remember. That was my title. And now I'm working at a new job for, better benefits and pay and whatnot, but also just staying in that technology realm.
Okay, awesome. And what kind of drew you into the IT field?
I really enjoy technology. I always have, even as a kid. I wasn't aware as a kid though that there was so much work available in technology. I didn't know how much I actually loved it until I was assisting at the high schools the high school that I had been working at. And from there, that's where I realized that technology was definitely my niche, I think you call it. So moving through different waves of jobs, like different categories of jobs, technology is where I've landed, and I think that's where I will keep myself planted.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, tech, as you said, it's the niche of technology is super vast. I know there's a ton of different things out there from security to counter surveillance. Like
Yeah,
there's
totally.
software, design, like there's a ton of different things out there. Is there a particular field or niche that you are most interested in?
Yeah, the uh, I'm drawing a blank right now. We were just talking about it before we hopped on, but it was within the cloud, and I'm pretty sure it's on my LinkedIn, but I can't quite remember the direct title. Cloud network engineer.
Okay.
That is my goal. That's my aspiring goal, and that's something that I really want to stick to. Is the cloud? It's forever growing. It's forever developing and improving. So I'm assuming sometime in the next 10 to 20 years, we're probably going to get somewhere where most companies, if not all companies, are switched from physical files to cloud based files. And cloud is a booming industry. So, not just work security, but more of a consistency and something that I'm interested and I love to progress in.
Gotcha. That's awesome. It's also funny that you bring that up, leaving the paper archives and moving more to the cloud-based network, because that's actually something I talked about with Dorian on the last podcast.
Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, so working in HR, a lot of organizations have not made that transition, even to just an electronic data bank. They just haven't made the transition into a fully digital model.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, it's really archaic in the sense of having to go walk, find somewhere, pull out all these, files, search through the files by hand, find the one you need, pull it out, then sift through all of those documents in the folder, find the one you need, and so
Yeah.
on and so forth. And it just takes so much time.
Yeah, I agree. But when we worked together, I believe that you were the one to deal with a lot of physical files, whereas my department was solely digital files, and we had migrated a lot. But while it seems baffling, it's also understandable because trying to legally and correctly organize all those files being transferred from physical files to digital files, cloud-based, whatnot, it is very tedious. It's tedious. It's also stressful because the slightest thing can go wrong. Then you lose a file, it gets corrupted. Or if your organization doesn't have the security it needs, its cybersecurity that it needs, it could be easily hacked, and then you're running down a rabbit hole trying to fix things, get things back. Sometimes it's gone forever, and then you might even be risking not just yourself, but also clients that are involved. So that also leads me to another topic. In one of my most recent workplaces, we had a breach, and while the IT department, we were trying to do everything we can to take care of it before it reached pretty much mass chaos. It just did not it wasn't seen as a threat in time to be taken care of. So by the time that infrastructure and cybersecurity had hopped on it, it was already too late, to the point where the attackers were toying with us, sending messages, encrypted messages on the files that they had gone and corrupted and attached further viruses with a famous artist and her lyric attached to it. So they knew what they were doing. They knew that they had full control, and they were just messing with us at that time. So the ransom hadn't even been released yet. It was just playing. It was almost like batting a toy in front of a cat. And we were the cat while they were holding the toy. It was awful. Oh my gosh. But definitely a warning to all companies: make sure your stuff is secured. Invest. Don't hold back on that dollar.
Gotcha. That's actually a great point. Security is one of those things that, especially in the HR realm, there's so much really key and critical employee information. If you don't have that, locked, very safe,
Yeah.
very secured, that could cause a ton of risks and honestly make it so that way you aren't trusted again. Like, the brand of security is so undervalued, but in reality, it's one of those things that is probably one of the most critical points. But yeah, so awesome point. And as far as the cloud network and just in general, your experience in IT, how would you recommend organizations do the transition from a full paper or, a full in-person system to an electronic system or cloud-based?
That, in my opinion, always requires the teams that are involved need to be present. They should be present 100% to ensure a successful transfer. And the reason why I say that is because managers of those departments will typically assign usually someone of the lower tier to take care of that. And it usually falls on maybe one or two people. But the issue is, the larger the company is, the more that is at stake. And when you have a larger company and you have one person transferring all these files from every department that's necessary, then there is bound to have not just one or two, but a continuous multitude of errors. And like I said earlier, with the whole corruption, something's going to get lost. You might leave a window open, and here comes the hackers right in because you left it open. So my recommendation would definitely have everybody involved that needs to be involved. So if you're transferring stuff in, let's use the healthcare system. We're fully aware that a lot of hospitals are still physical paperwork. They still haven't quite transitioned to the electronic. And we'll use the radiology department. When you're doing that transfer, radiology, the department heads need to be involved with your direct management. Then you need to have whomever of your IT is doing the transfer and the assisting. They need to be fully involved, as well as your IT head. And your cybersecurity team needs to be completely engulfed in that. I don't know if you need to have them taking shifts, because it is going to be exhausting. It could be extremely time consuming, and it could cause a lot of anxiety, because at any given point there's going to be a weak focal point, and you need to have it protected. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, great points. And then pivoting a little bit from the security side, we've talked a little bit in the past about AI and automation and the different tools that are out there that HR is currently using. We've discussed, onboarding and terminations is actually one of the things that we discussed as well. In the past, as you stated, we did work together and we did have issues when it came to terminations.
Mm-hmm.
HR, definitely take some self-blame here. Sometimes the paperwork or whatever, we wouldn't be as quick or as following the policy to the T like we needed to. And that ended up causing issues for IT, as you guys were also responsible for certain parts of terminations in the sense of,
Yes.
deleting access or canceling certain restrictions, things like that. And in a high profile situation, or at least in a situation where someone has a lot of access, that can cause a lot of issues.
Oh, yes. Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah. So I know the last time we talked about it, we kind of said a little bit about how the automation could help that process in the sense of as soon as our HR identifies someone to be terminated, we go through the process of the termination. Then, a lot of organizations use a human resource information system or a human resource management system. In that system, it would be potentially feasible to automate that once you terminate an employee on that side, it will automatically send out notifications to all the parties that are required to know. So that way it kind of takes out the human error aspect. As soon as someone gets terminated, you immediately get sent the notification, and then, IT, the general manager, whoever needs to know is able to know, and that way it kind of takes out any room for error.
Yes. Yes, actually, when you had brought it up and gave me an explanation of that, I completely agree. And I'm aware that people are hesitant to move towards something like that because they fear AI will do what it wants to do. And humans give AI a little bit too much credit this early in the game. We're not quite there where AI is doing whatever it wants. It's just creating its own algorithm, taking over. It's not doing that. But instead, it will do so much as you tell it to. So having an automated system like that eliminates error. You and I both saw when we used to work together that there were so many gaps, and then there were also too many hands in the pot dealing with, terminations, dismissals, suspensions, whatever. And it would cause more error because you had one person saying one thing, the second person opposing, and then you had a third party. It was all over the place. So if that one person was to terminate an employee and use that automated system, then you don't need to go through X, Y, and Z to get it done. And it would create a better efficiency. So I'm 100% agreeing with you. And I would love to see that implemented in many companies, like as of yesterday. It's not just a me factor, it's an everyone factor. And the less errors, the more efficient a company runs. And that would also benefit the economy way down the road. But that's a whole nother subject.
No, absolutely. I know we talked a little bit about AI. Where do you see AI in the future as far as like the plans or what it's going to, how it'll affect the workplace, maybe from an admin perspective as opposed to operations?
Um, that's a good question because I'm a little bit of everything, but I'm not quite strong in one particular aspect. So if I'm thinking of AI and admin, I can only go so far as to what I've seen on the outside of admin. And same thing with the operational side. So I wouldn't want to give a direct point of fact if I'm not 100% on it. I can give you my opinion, absolutely. Yeah. But if I'm going to say where AI is going on the admin side, I would like to see it to about like an 80% of its potential, but not 100. And the reason why I say that is because those of us who are in the IT field are still cautious of how much power we give AI to prevent what I mentioned just a few minutes ago, or just a few seconds ago, about we're not quite there with AI taking over the world. And there is a good healthy boundary that we have right now with AI that I want to see continued,
Mhm.
but I also want to see it grow. I just don't want AI in charge of me. That's all.
I mean, Terminator was a great scenario for the world. We could
Terminator
definitely.
was interesting, but then you also, you got a lot going on. And then iRobot with
Oh yeah, of course.
that was also pretty fearful, but I think it gave us just the right amount of fear that we could set a goal, but we really shouldn't do something. Even if we can, we shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
If that makes any sense.
for sure. Nice. Yeah, and then regarding AI, I'm absolutely no subject matter expert on AI. I actually just started playing around more with it recently.
Isn't
I
it
was playing,
incredible
it
though?
really is, yeah. I was playing
Yes.
with ChatGPT and I was actually asking it direct questions to find out, kind of flush out the details of the program itself. And some of the questions I asked were like, where do you get your information from? Like, what are the sources? Are you still learning or are you kind of like stagnant? And a lot of the information I got, and this is, let me specify, this is ChatGPT 3.5. So it's the free
It's
version.
different versions of
It
it,
is
yes.
the most updated in sense of the free versions, but it's not the 4.0. I haven't played with the Dolly system yet, which is also seems pretty interesting. Have you heard about that?
No.
So Dolly is this is actually, I asked ChatGPT about this. It asked, or I'm sorry, it said that Dolly is a mixture of Wally and the not Dalai Lama. I'm mixing them up. Anyways, a famous artist back in the day. I'm drawing a blank, but it was a famous artist back in the day mixed with
It would happen
Wally.
to be Dolly Parton, would
No, no, no.
it? Dolly and
That's
Wally.
a good one. But no, so basically it's the one where you put in chats and then you put in like a description and then it gives you a picture.
Oh, nice. Oh, you know what? I think I may have heard of that
Yes,
actually.
yeah. So that's
It
that's
was
the
recently
name.
on TikTok. Yeah, but it's very interesting how many AI systems that we have because it's not just the picture one, but there's another one. The name escapes me, but it creates a song using your vocals.
Mm,
So you could speak into it. You could select what song you want it to cover, and it auto tunes everything and just puts it in place for you. So
nice.
it's incredible um, to see how much AI is growing. I mean, even if you look at it, before ChatGPT, we had Google, Siri, and Cortana,
Hmm.
the main three. Well, I'm not even sure if Cortana is considered a main three, but we have Google over here, who I would ask, "How was your day doing?" and she'll respond, and it's incredible because you can even set up a Google and a Siri to talk to each other. You just have to instigate it,
Mm.
and they'll just keep talking. But at the same time, you're like, "Oh, how much are you listening to?" I have seen on the news that Alexa is the main three. My apologies, not Cortana, but Alexa called the police from hearing a domestic issue going on in her household,
Mm.
and even though she wasn't instigated, she wasn't called to, she heard violent actions and silently called the police, and they show up, they save the wife, a good deed has been done. It's incredible.
Yeah, that is really impressive. I actually haven't heard of that one, so that's
Oh
really
yeah, this
interesting.
was years ago.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. But yeah, no, I hadn't heard of that. Uh, but yeah, it's really interesting what AI does now, and basically what I learned from my conversation, I say that in quotes, with ChatGPT was that basically it's all an algorithm, and essentially the way it works is that they train the system, also in quotes, they train the system by providing it like books, illustrations, articles, and a lot
Yes.
more information, and then that is the data bank it uses to make its decisions or
Yeah.
make its
Well, that's
its
how
ideas.
all AI grows, though.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you're aware of Bixby, the Samsung
Hmm.
AI, or the AI system whose name escapes me again. But WhatsApp now has an AI.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yes. So Bixby and WhatsApp, they both have disclosures that the more you use them, the more they learn, the more they grow. And Bixby has already proven that to me. I've been testing it out on my own phone. Years ago, I did not want to use Bixby. I wanted my Google. I wanted nothing to do with Bixby. Now I love my Bixby. And WhatsApp now will engage conversation with you. So if you want to talk to someone, no one's responding on your phone, you open up your WhatsApp, you could just have a chat with an AI because the algorithm's there to somewhat engage in human interaction. So we're getting closer to now we're going to have, you know, about Halo,
Hmm.
and you know about Cortana and all the other digital AIs that were created. We're getting closer to something like that,
Yeah.
to where we're just going to have AIs there that we can talk to. And we already have them doing what we need to digitally. So it's going to get to a point where what else can they do? And well, I'm just excited. We're living in that era
Yeah.
where technology is vastly growing.
Yeah, it really is. That was actually one of the discussions I had on LinkedIn recently. I was speaking to one of my connections, and she had brought up the fact that the HR field, traditional HR, is dead. And she stated that she needed to transition into the techno HR role. And that was really interesting. I had always understood how tech and HR go hand in hand, but I'd never heard of that like term used that way. And for her to say traditional HR is dead is also I find really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I partially disagree and agree. In my opinion, the seven functions of HR, I've talked about it a few times, but the core functions of HR, those should still be human interactions. I don't think that we should make HR the same way as like a call center where you have to talk to, press 5 now to speak to blah, blah,
Oh, I
blah.
agree.
And then it just
Yes.
keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. No, like HR should not be like that.
Yes.
So I definitely think that we still need the human in human resources. But automating certain things or, templates, immediate messages, third-party dependencies, utilizing AI for onboarding, creating videos, things like those are all fantastic tools that we could
Mm-hmm.
use.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think that as far as saying traditional HR is dead, I don't know if I really agree with that statement.
I would have to see the full run up of what she means by HR is dead, because I agree with you, and you semi agree with it, you semi disagree with it. And I also agree with the fact that you do need some human being, a legitimate human being in that role. And I say legitimate human being because this podcast may be listened to years down the road and we might have cyborgs. I don't know. But I just want to make sure it's clear that we do need someone with emotion, with an actual heart, with that considers ethics, and not as just a logical programming that if you go to it and you're saying, Bobby Bill decided to put his hands on me, and now this program's going to come back and say, well, Bobby Bill's fired, and it doesn't investigate the situation, because what if the person who is accusing Bobby Bill of something that's actually false?
Mm.
And there's no investigation held because that program is just you hear the complaint falls underneath a severe action, the severe action goes straight to termination. So that's why I think a human interaction would be more efficient,
Mm.
and it would also be more comforting. When I call a certain pharmacy and that pharmacy has me on the phone talking to an AI and I have to continuously click on different numbers to actually get to the point, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
So if I imagined having to deal with that in HR, especially with a concerning matter, I wouldn't want to work there. If I didn't have proper support, no, I'm not staying there. If I heard about it before even getting the job, I wouldn't take it. So yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. Well, I mean, I'm interested. I'm really curious. I'm happy we're having this conversation. We've decided to make this more of a regular thing here on the Everything HR podcast, is having these conversations, kind of focusing more on our personal experience in HR as well as the tech side of things. Tech is always changing, it's ever evolving, and being able to have these conversations and really talk it out
Mm-hmm.
is a great way to learn more.
Oh yeah, this conversation go on for days, but I know that we have to stick to an agenda. But yes, there's plenty of technology out there that uh, I would highly endorse, and there's technology that I would pull back on just because of privacy concerns or what have you.
For sure. Well, if you enjoyed having Beck on the podcast, by all means, listen to it again. And then, we're going to make sure to have her back on a few more times as long as she would have us. And if you stuck with me this long, I truly appreciate it. If you like the content, please rate the show. And if you're feeling a little crazy, maybe share it with someone.